with the election coming up, it's time to take a look at what is helping and what is hurting the Don. And here are 3 areas where Trump can pick up a lot of independent voters. And I want to talk about this. And the first one being anti-war or being a non-interventionist. And despite having the biggest defense budget of all times and using that money to unjustly bomb Syria, as well as ramping up the bombing in Afghanistan, Donald Trump is going to frame this as this being a continuation of Obama and Bush's war. And I put this article up on the Forbes, and you can see it right here, plain and simple, that in 2018, the U.S. has never dropped as many bombs as Afghanistan as it did in 2018. In other words, they almost tripled. By 75%, they amped up the bombing. And yet, Donald Trump gets to look at it. And I put this up right here. But the worst part about it is, if it ain't Tulsi or Bernie on that debate stage with Donald Trump can attack any establishment candidate from the left on foreign policy because the Democrats themselves support the position on regime change and intervention. Venezuela, Hong Kong, Bolivia, just to name a few. This is an area where the left should be able to pound Donald Trump into submission, but they can't. Why? Because they suck. Plain and simple. There it is, fam. And I want to talk about this because we talk about this often, that Donald Trump is not the non-interventionist that he gets made out to be. However, to his base, to everybody out there, he hasn't started a new war. Everything we talk about, even with Venezuela, Barack Obama, and there's footage out there of Max Blumenthal going on a show and saying, why did Barack Obama label Venezuela as a military threat? So he's continuing the wars is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, he's continuing their wars, but that's also not, I mean, I think we have to make very clear to people that, a lot of his supporters that want to pin him as an anti-interventionist, that continuing Obama's wars isn't what he said he would do. He said he would not do that. He said he would be the anti-interventionist. So even if it was started by Obama and then previously by Bush. Then okay, great. So can you do what you said you would do? And he hasn't done that. And so we need to stop with this idea that Donald Trump is this non-interventionist, because like Pasta said, he's actually escalated in places like Afghanistan. He helped with a coup, tried to push a coup in Venezuela. Look what happened in Bolivia with Ted Cruz and his little, guys being involved in this sort of coup.
That's his coup now.
Exactly.
That's his coup. That's his intervention. Bolivia belongs on the hands of Donald Trump, and it's up to us to get that out here, because the mainstream media, I mean, Bill Maher, when he had Tulsi Gabbard on, he says, you're like Donald Trump, you're a non-interventionist. That is how the mainstream left is spinning this in a lot of ways. Okay, they are saying that he never started. I think they said he's the first president in like the last 7 to not start his own conflict or something like that. But he's continuing that, and that was before Bolivia.
Yeah.
But he's continuing on these wars, and he's going to frame it like that. He's like, these senseless wars that were started by Obama, I'm trying to get them out, but the military-industrial complex doesn't want to let me. We know he's not going to get out of Afghanistan. Why? Because the opium's there, and he's a businessman. He's not giving up that opium.
With people like Pompeo and people like our evil Geppetto, he's not ever going to be a peace candidate. Ever. Because those are the people driving, the weapons over there. He's also increased funding and support for military aid as well to Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where a lot of our money goes. Another thing he's done is been Saudi Arabia's bitch. And that's continued.
It's a truth.
On and on again. And that's what he's been doing. But
the way he's framing this is a scary moment. And once again, this is why we're out there full-fledged. And it really sucks. Got into that room in the in Long Beach at the LA
convention.
All these people are for war. They're standing behind the OAS. You know what I'm saying? And it's a shame, because he's getting away with bloody friggin' murder.
And they're not criticizing him for
exactly.
Why?
Because they stand on his side, the major of the fucking Democrats themselves.
They just voted. And they proved it.
Gave him his money. They gave
time
him
and time again. Every single time there's a military budget vote, you're going to see a bunch of Democrats voting with Donald Trump.
2, the second area, the economy. Another area where Democrats should be able to pound Donald Trump into submission, but they won't. Only Bernie Sanders has called him out. He's done this on every single reply back to the State of the Union. Here he is in one of the State of the Unions, and this is what you got to do. You got to be specific. None of the Democrats, in fact, some of them, like even once again going back to Bill Maher, is like, well, he's doing great on the economy. The stock market's doing great. No, he is doing shit on the economy for the everyday average person, for the worker. Homeless list is growing, and nobody's calling him on it.
What percentage of people are in the are even count in the stock market?
It's low. It's under 25%.
Exactly.
Of people,
so how are we still using that as a measure to say, oh, the economy's doing great?
GDP growth.
That's ridiculous.
He says it's a hot economy. That's the whole thing. And you know what? He gets away with it. But here's Bernie Sanders calling him out, and we need more of this.
For many of President Trump's billionaire friends, the truth is they have never, ever had it so good. But for the middle class and for the working families of our country, the truth is that the economy is not so great. Over the last year, for example, real inflation accounted for wages for the average American worker is up by all of 1.2%, just $9.11 a week. In fact, real wages for that same worker, that average American worker, are lower today than they were in 1973. Let me repeat that. The average American worker, after adjusting for inflation, is earning less today than he or she did 46 years ago, despite huge increases in productivity. Sadly, millions of American workers are now forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills and to keep their heads above water economically.
Okay, so there it is. And I like this part about it because, you know, he always goes after the unjust inequality, talking about the rich people. But this is him putting out statistics where the everyday average person is not doing better. Comparing those numbers back to 1973, fam. This is the tactic we need to use to hit Donald Trump in the head over the economy.
And this is where I love Bernie Sanders, because this is where he focuses on. This is his wheelhouse right here, like the economy and how wages have been stagnant and how we're making less money than people did back in 1973. That is ridiculous. I mean, people, you can just state these facts like whatever. That if you really listen to that is insane. We're supposed to be progressing in life and not regressing, and that's what we've been doing. And people like Donald Trump like to talk about how, you know, job employment is down, how he always puts in the statistic of black unemployment is down under Donald
Trump.
Trump.
All these fugazi statistics.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous because, like Bernie said, people are having to work 3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And that's not even considering how much the cost of living, the cost of rent has gone up, where people up until this point right now are working full time and they're living in their cars and they have full-time jobs. So why isn't the majority of the Democratic Party attacking Donald Trump on this? Because they are just like him when it comes to the economy.
Yeah.
They are just like him when it comes to being responsive to corporations over people. They're just like him when it comes to anything that involves money. They're pro-capitalists or pro-neocons, neoliberals. It's the same type
they got money
of
in
system.
The stock market.
They want to keep their seats cushioned.
Yeah.
They don't care about the working class.
Yeah.
So they can't attack him on that.
And I'm going to finish up. We'll finish up the section number 2 before we get to the super chats. But Tom Steyer also said at the KDM convention in Long Beach, and this caught my ears too as well. We caught him, and he also called out where we watch what he says. This is what you need to do. This is an area where we need more Democrats to get to.
Can beat Donald Trump. I'm not sure he's going to be their candidate, but at the moment I think most primary voters are assuming he will be. And if he is, I think people want to feel like whoever the Democrat is has got to be able to stand up to him, specifically economically, and take him down for the failure that he really is on the economy.
You know, I feel bad that meeting I went to when the guy was talking about Tom Steyer, I got up and walked out because it was like, I'm not listening to this shit. But ever since we've seen him, he has been growing on me. And not to say he's my number 1 candidate by any means, but really this is important right here. This is where we got, because he's calling it out. He's
a billionaire himself.
Yes.
So.
I mean, the fact that everybody's sitting out there and bragging about Donald Trump on the economy, the mainstream media, is disgusting. And fam, I put this up here for you. Can you read that one for me?
Yeah, the mainstream media, especially the left outlets, don't talk about the homeless. They don't talk about poverty, but they always talk about the stock market. Let's face it, MSNB Latte C's main viewers are affluent wine moms. And then Pasta has this tweet.
Yeah, because you put this up, and I was laughing hysterically.
Russiagate is cue for wine moms. It is. It absolutely is, fam.
And that's their audience. That's what's
Yeah.
going on. You know what I'm saying? They're so disconnected from the poor and everyday average people, you know what I'm saying, that it's disgusting. And they don't talk about those things. They don't talk about Donald Trump being a failure on the economy. And I put, in addition to the spin of Donald Trump on the economy, don't ever tell me that neoliberals would ever risk losing their jobs by having a true progressive win rather than having Donald Trump getting reelected. This is CNN Money, the anti-Trump channel, doing a little clip video on how great Donald Trump is in the economy because of attitude. Watch this bullshit.
Disgusting.
Who deserves credit for the booming American economy?
How much credit do you give President Trump for a strong February, or does President Obama deserve some credit?
How much credit does he get versus his, Obama?
It's interesting that Republicans say, well, the economy is going gangbusters. Well, yeah, it is. Thank you, President Obama. Wrong. There is one person who deserves credit today, and that's Donald Trump. And it's all thanks to the one thing his critics dislike the most, his big mouth.
Jobs, jobs, jobs.
Here's what I mean. We're now more than a year into the Trump presidency. Pick any number you want. Jobs, stocks, corporate profits, they're all gangbusters. And it's true that those measures were already strong when Trump took over and have basically continued on a long-term trajectory that started in 2009. But something feels different about the Trump economy.
I've created over 1 million jobs since I'm president.
There's a momentum, an energy, a bravado.
The stock market is way up again today, and we're setting a record literally all the time.
It's as if corporate America, Wall Street, and even blue-collar workers suddenly have their mojo back.
We will buy American, and we will hire American.
It turns out the only thing the American economy was missing these last 10 years was confidence. And nobody is as confident as Donald J. Trump. President Trump's nonstop boosterism has flipped a switch in the minds of investors and CEOs. He's got their back, and he's delivered with a fat tax cut and aggressive deregulation. And he's been the lucky beneficiary of a rare coordinated global comeback. But this goes beyond just policy and timing. Trump has become the cheerleader in chief, and you can measure the impact. In the month Trump became president, small business optimism had its biggest gain since 1980. Consumer confidence now stands at a 17-year high. And investor sentiment? There's nothing but bulls out there. It's as if the American economy itself now reflects Trump's own ego. Everything is the biggest.
The biggest.
And the best.
The best.
So 1 year in, the economy is firing on all cylinders. The worry is now turning to that engine overheating. And we'll see if the president can take the heat, if and when this economy cools.
Fam, I'm going to let you make comments on this because I only put GTFOH. That's CNN Money saying that because of Trump's bravado, because of his energy, I had to do the Trump. Johnny, when he does
Sam,
this.
I'm pescatarian, but I'm ready to eat the rib
I
after this.
know.
I mean, it's disgusting.
Oh,
and
God.
CNN barely mentions Bernie Sanders, and they smear Tulsi Gabbard, but then you see how they talk about Trump. They're uplifting the guy. Because why? Because they would rather win or lose to Donald Trump than win with an actual progressive that's going to take away their cushions, their money, their lavish lifestyles. It doesn't get any more clear than this. They might as well have been an ad for Donald Trump because that's how bad it is. And also note how the only time they attack Donald Trump is his sexist remarks, his rude attitude, how he looks, etc. Why? Because they will never attack him on economic policy because they really don't want to change anything. They talk about how Donald Trump has given big tax cuts to corporations as if that's a great thing. Meanwhile, people are like in debt and they're paying taxes far more than taxes and companies like Amazon and Netflix. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I'm not gonna go. Listen, that's just the biggest thing. That's a lie, and you could see how they were talking about it. It's a bull market. It's for investors. It's for small businesses. It's not for the everyday
It's not
average
for small
freaking
businesses.
America. It's not for real, true small businesses.
We're headed to a recession
We
because
are.
small businesses can't compete with corporations.
Yeah, and it's disgusting that CNN. You think that they're the opposition to Trump. No, they're not. No, they're not. That's just
It's
terrible.
very clear.
Let me go to some super chat contributions. So now, fam, in the news is why we did this whole segment. This whole song and dance I wanted to bring in has a connection to what really happened just recently. Trade. Okay, this is a serious kink in the armor that has been exposed. And I don't know why we are not seeing the Democrats take advantage of this. When it came to all these things, when the independent voters, they were like, okay, well, maybe he'll do good for the economy. Maybe he'll be in a non-interventionist. Also, trade. His whole ideology on trade. A lot of people who don't understand trade, and neither do I. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and I did a lot of research in the past. I watched a lot of Max Kaiser to understand what was going on, and he explained a lot of things, and a lot of things from Ben Swan. So let's see. This is Ben Swan breaking it down. We're not going to run through the whole thing. We'll start it off, and I'll tell you when to stop. But a serious kink has happened when it comes to trade and Donald Trump, and I don't think people have realized this is an opportunity to go after him because he failed miserably. Let's go.
Phase 1 of the U.S.-China trade deal is apparently in full swing, and billions more in tariffs were averted overnight. But one economist is saying Trump's economic policies are making America weak. Paul Krugman, a New York Times columnist and well-known economist, says that POTUS's Phase 1 trade deal with China has accomplished almost nothing, going on to say American consumers and farmers bared the brunt of this trade war. So joining us to break it all down, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, what do you make of Paul Krugman's criticisms of Phase 1? Should we take them seriously, or should we disregard, given Krugman is known to have a liberal slant?
Yeah, well, certainly Paul Krugman does have a liberal slant. But look, when we look at the numbers here, and we focus on the numbers as we do on Boom Bust, we know that this trade deal has not been everything that the president had said it would be. And certainly Phase 1 has not accomplished what the president has said it would accomplish. Look, as you mentioned, about $160 billion in additional new tariffs that would have gone onto Chinese goods was averted overnight. So that's a very positive thing. Certainly for American consumers, it's a good thing. But when we look at what's ultimately happening right now with this trade war, all the things that were promised, that China is going to buy billions upon tens of billions more in agricultural products from the United States, that is not happening. It appears so far that the U.S. is saying about $16 billion more per year in 2020 and 2021 than we've seen in the past. That would take us to roughly about $40 billion in agricultural purchases. But the Chinese are not even agreeing to that. They're just saying, we'll see. We'll see what the numbers shake out to. So it's not a good sign. It seems like there's a lot of spinning going on to try to make it look like it's a win. It doesn't necessarily look like a win.
Yeah, now you and I have actually discussed.
Okay, so there it is. What had happened, these other tariffs were set to take place coming up, and it was going to really be a strain on the economy. We haven't seen the war yet for us as far as when it comes to the tariffs and stuff like that. But we're talking about that these that were gone into play, we might have seen them every day. Now, who was affected were the farmers throughout this country, really, especially the soybean farmers, whatnot. I think we saw a video of Tulsi Gabbard talking to somebody in New Hampshire or whatnot about the trade war has hurt them because now that America can't sell their apples over to China that they were selling within the States, and all these small businesses were folding because now they can't compete with the big farms that can outbid them and sell their apples at a much cheaper price. So it was actually hurting a lot of farmers within the United States. But working our way backwards, I think the reason why this was a positive thing going into Donald Trump's his first term was the fact that he understood trade in a different way than, let's say, Obama did, or politically where Clinton gave us the NAFTA agreement. What Donald Trump, his whole theory was called mercantilism, okay? And it's a theory that explains Donald Trump's trade war. And we have it right here. And there's one insert I took about this. Max Kaiser would say it's neo-mercantilism because Donald Trump was really forcing it on far. And what it is, and here I have a little passage, I want to read what this is. The idea was to maximize the value of your exports and minimize the value of your imports in order to increase wealth and the amount of wealth your country had. So in other words, we have all these other countries going around doing different things. They're working on different monetary systems, but you value what you got going in over there high, and what's coming in you devalue. Therefore, you essentially bring up the finances of your country as a whole. Okay, so in other words, their products will be very cheap, but your products will be more expensive over there. And that's the method he tried to use. And it says this was accomplished by preventing imports of finished products by means of tariffs, the promotion of domestic manufacturing, and the strict control over the money supply. Now, this is another thing. He targeted his tariffs over there was a plan to try to bring back manufacturing in the States. Therefore, you can only bring over bulk items, and then the rest of the manufacturing will be done in the United States. It didn't work out. These policies were best, and it talks about where they were best expressed in France by Jean Baptiste, and that's where he got this whole theory from. So what he did was, and a lot of people said this, at least Donald Trump is trying to do something when it comes to trade. He's just not bending over the way the TPP was proposed, that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and NAFTA. He tried his shot. The only problem was, fam, is that the Chinese waited it out. They're more methodical. And I put this up right here in closing. Donald Trump's attempt to reset the trade policies came up short, and American farmers paid the price. Unfortunately, the Chinese are better at chess than Donald Trump. They play the long game and are as patient as can be. Donald just lost his queen. However, will the Democrats seize the opportunity and use this major blunder to hurt Trump in an area believed to be by many as one of his strongest? Okay, fam? This is a big kink in the armor right here. He essentially failed playing bluff, playing chicken with the Chinese. And now, backtracking, we've even got a little bit less than what we started from.
And the Democrats, again, won't attack him on this because they support even worse policies. They support neoliberal policies like the TPP. And they are, they're if they were smart, they would actually be like, oh, hey, look, we're going to change Trump's disastrous trade policies. We're going to go and help the farmers. We're going to go and campaign in the Midwest and talk about how we can employ our farmers, how we can give them tax cuts, how we can focus on how they can rebuild and make more money, how we can, use new industries like the new industries like in Green New Deal, whether it's hemp or whether it's other industries, solar, and help our farmers cut costs using these new industries. Instead, what they're doing is once again focusing on the emotional aspects of why Donald Trump is so bad.
And also, too, like you said, their policies when it came to NAFTA, when it came to TPP, it's like it's either, what do you want, the frying pan or the boiling water, you know what I'm saying? Donald Trump took a shot at something by trying to use neo-mercantilism to enrich his country. Now, it might not have worked, but a lot of people are going to view it as, hey, man, he took a shot. But now right here, he failed. He fell down. And the Democrats can't attack him on it because why? Their policies are just as bad, if not worse, when it came to NAFTA. So people have to be educated on this. They have to learn about what's going on.
And the reason it didn't work, too, is because it's mercantilism was flourishing under a more actual laissez-faire economy. Our economy, contrary to what economists believe, is not a laissez-faire economy. It is a oligarchy where corporations control everything. So once you have the corporations pretty much controlling the market, it is no longer even a free market to begin with. So therefore, mercantilism under Jean Baptiste is not going to work. In America. It's just not. Again, the system is set up in this way now, and that's why we have to change the structure of the system. Yeah,
if we have more citizens with more businesses, with more,
we would need small businesses more.
A lot more small businesses where that would work. It would be, it would make sense. But under an oligarchy, like you said, NAFTA actually plays out better for them because then they can even furthermore manipulate things on trade and when it comes to, what's that? Crony capitalism. So, I mean, he took a shot here. He lost. And he should be called out for it. But once again, the Democrats don't know how to go after Donald Trump. They don't know how to attack him. And therefore, they will lose on this one when it's a serious kink in the armor. Also, a little extra fuel to the fire. The other day, Trump denied the Armenian genocide. This is a move now, fam. You play chess as well. Erdogan, right? He doesn't want to piss off Erdogan. So you can better believe there's some type of deal or something worked out with Turkey because this isn't about him getting votes. I had a friend of mine whose father wanted to bet me that Donald Trump had a chance to win California. I'll let you out of that bet right now because after this, you got zero chance of winning California. I don't care what establishment Democrat. This ruins you in L.A. You have no shot now. But once again, he's moving a chess piece. You can better believe he's chumming up with Erdogan, and he doesn't want to piss him off, and that's what this is about.